So now that we're done talking about random Suris tentacle porn art that gets submitted, let's go ahead and talk about something that is at least a little less cringy, classically Abby. Now, this video I have not seen yet. This is essentially going to be a live reaction critique of it, but she says that self-care is trash. And then says 5 ways to actually take care of yourself, which means we're either going to get a video that is shitting on mental health because she's an idiot, or we're going to get a video that says self-care is trash, but here's 5 ways to engage in self-care. But I guess we'll find out. We'll find out which one it is herein as soon as my computer stops freezing.
And welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about how to do self-care right. I don't know about you, but in the past few years, I feel like the term self-care has become a huge part of the vernacular, has become something that everybody wants to talk about. And here's the thing, I'm not against the idea of self-care. I'm against the idea.
If you're not against the idea of self-care, then why did you label your video self-care as trash?
Of what self-care has now come to mean. In the same way that I'm against the idea of female empowerment meaning something that I totally disagree with. Do I think that the words female and empowerment can go together? Absolutely. Do I agree with how they're used nowadays? Not so much.
Then maybe you should actually define what female empowerment is nowadays. This is a thing that I don't like, okay? This type of argumentation where you say, well, I don't like how it's used nowadays, but then you don't say how it's used nowadays, and so we just kind of have to guess. We have to fill in the blank our own answer, which I understand is kind of the point sometimes, where we have to fill in the blank, and because we have to do that, we put in what we don't agree with, and we go, ah, yes, I agree with what you don't agree with. It must necessarily be the thing that I don't agree with, but let's see if it actually is.
Name definitely goes for the 2 words self and care. But self-care nowadays does not really mean what it says. In today's day and age, when you use the term self-care, it evokes an image of a woman who is kind of neglecting any of the other things that need to happen. She says, everyone needs to be put on hold. I need to deal with myself right now. I'm gonna have my glass of wine and watch my TV show and take a bath and take care of myself.
Why is that in quotes? Okay, so there are times when everything around you is overwhelming, and trying to handle everyone else's shit, even like going to work, is not good for your mental health. And you need to just take a day. Take a day. Sit down, relax, do something for you. Treat yourself. But apparently that basic idea is something that Abby is very, very against. And I don't see why, but I guess maybe we'll get some context when we see what her alternatives are. But apparently, taking care of yourself in the way that she just described, which is a perfectly valid way of engaging in self-care, is something that she's against. This uwu face, by the way, we froze on an Abby Shapiro uwu face. I don't know how to feel about that, but I feel like it's going to become the thumbnail. But I'm also terrified. Radiant has it right in the chat. Burnout's a thing. Sometimes you have to address burnout.
That isn't really self-care. Self-care...
That's not taking time for your... That's not self-care? Abby, that is self-care. That is a... Self-care takes various forms. That is self-care. You thinking that's not self-care? I will quote the random cringe that's in my chat right now. Oh, whoa, notices your bigotry.
Should be preventative. Self-care should be something that all women engage in to make sure that we don't get to the point where we're so overwhelmed that we have to take a night of self-care. This is something that I think is really...
Have you ever considered that... Okay, so... There's gonna be about a second or two delay when I actually pause the video and when I actually get to respond, because apparently my computer is getting very slow. But Abby, you do know that sometimes you cannot prevent the situation that causes you to need to take the day, and the day is actually a preventative measure to prevent you from getting overwhelmed. Does Does that basic concept not jive with you? Do you not get that? At all? Like, this is not difficult.
Really important. If you take care of yourself regularly, then you won't need nights off for self-care. Now, is that always
okay.
true?
No, okay. So I like how she immediately contradicts herself by saying what it sounds like she's about to say. Is that always true? No. But let me go ahead and take this stupid fucking argument. And I'm sorry that was really loud, but I need to take this absolutely back-asswards stupid argument and apply it to the workforce. You know, if you just paced yourself correctly, you wouldn't need a weekend. Wow. What a dumb fucking argument. And suddenly, I need to engage in not self-care, but self-harm. That was not nearly hard enough. Needs more concussive force next time. Her argument seems to boil down to, well, I don't like this particular kind of self-care. I would rather prevent you from ever needing it, and then call that self-care. Like, yeah, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, but that doesn't mean dismiss the goddamn cure.
No, of course, there are certain days that we have that are just crazy, and at the end of it, you want to just chill out and relax. But making the idea of this kind of self-care a really frequent thing, instead of dealing with the stuff that could actually keep you feeling calm and collected and more ready to take on the day, is to the detriment of women everywhere. Because
okay, it's not that you're wrong, Abby. It's not that the idea that we should make sure that our plates are not so overly full and that we take care of ourselves is a bad one. But let me paint a scenario for you, something you've never had to fucking deal with, you dumbass. Here, let me paint a scenario for you. You can't afford rent, so you have to work a second job. Now, you can't afford eating out because you're barely affording rent, so you've got to cook too. Because that's the only way you can make yourself the cheaper meals that last longer so that you can function between your two jobs. You're working effectively 70 to 80 hours a week and spending a good portion of that time cooking. You're barely able to sleep. Now, what type of fucking prevention were you going to have? How were you going to manage that, Abby? Now, I understand that your privileged ass has no idea what it's like to be in that scenario where you're between a rock and a hard place, and you have no idea, no ability to actually prevent the incoming mental health clusterfuck that you will be engaged in. I understand that you've never dealt with that scenario because your privileged ass is worth a shit ton of money and you haven't had to worry about it. But at the end of the day, working class Americans do have to deal with that reality. Your proposal basically breaks down to just don't. It's not a solution. It solves nothing. Self-care is there so that when you are getting overwhelmed, like in the scenario that I proposed here, you have something that allows you to get your faculties back together. But no, Abby. Your solution so far is just don't have the breakdown. That's not how any of this works, Abby. Not in reality. In classically Abby world, where everything gets to be conservative and clean and classic and nothing is bad ever, yeah, I get it. Maybe you could live in that fantasy. The rest of us, however, don't get that.
Because what really ends up happening is that you don't deal with underlying issues. You just kind of stick a Band-Aid on a gaping wound by drinking a little bit of wine and watching a stupid TV show and taking a night of self-care.
You keep on putting it in quotation marks. You are literally shitting on people who have mental health issues and need to take that. I get if you're neurotypical and this isn't an issue, you don't have this problem. But not only are there material situations, there are also mental situations where this cannot happen, Abby. This does not happen. Abby, the logical idea that I'm bringing to you is something called the reductio ad absurdum. If I create a scenario, and it is moderately extreme, it is the reductio, it is the absurd reductio, the reduction of your argument, and your argument necessarily does not function within the realm of the reductio, the argument is shit. That's how it works, Abby. But go on, Queen.
Instead of taking care of yourself regularly. Self-care should mean taking care of yourself and really taking the time to figure out how you're going to be able to handle everyday life. Instead, it has come to mean restorative care, this idea that I need to take care of myself after the fact. You don't want to let things snowball out of control.
It's not about taking care of yourself after the fact, Abby. Although this is the best freeze frame. This is a 10 out of 10 freeze frame. I like this freeze frame. I think I'll keep it. Preventative care can be preventing yourself from getting overwhelmed by too much stuff coming on your plate, or it can be preventing yourself from having a breakdown. The self-care day is for that too, Abby. You may label that all as restorative care, but I'm gonna go ahead and take a guess that because your privileged ass doesn't know what this shit is like, that you're looking at it from the outside in. And you're looking at it with a fucking superiority complex. And it's gross. And this is the absolute best frame to describe your entire argument. In fact, actually, this is the frame that we will be using for the thumbnail. This frame right here. And somebody is going to be getting that freeze frame sent to them so that I can save it. Okay. Come on, Abby. Let's get back to the suffering.
Until the point where you are so overwhelmed that you do need to take a night of self-care. The fact of the matter is that this idea of self-care doesn't ever really work. It doesn't encourage young women to actually take care of themselves.
Do you know what the purpose of this self-care is, Abby? Because for you to say it doesn't work, you need to know what it's for. Now, if my energy levels are here, and then after a handful of days working 2 jobs, it's here, and then I take that self-care day and my energy levels are back here, it worked, you troglodyte. It did its job. This is an argument against taking a vacation from work. Well, you wouldn't need a vacation if you just did your job properly. If you just handled all your ducks in a row, you'd never need that vacation. A self-care day is a mental health vacation, Abby. I love how your arguments essentially are, let's stay classic and shit on the working class. Wouldn't it be great if the proletariat just got completely fucked by the bourgeoisie? Wouldn't that be just fantabulous? That is classically Abby in a nutshell, at least in this video.
Regularly. Instead, it just says, when you're feeling upset or overwhelmed, instead of dealing with the root of the problem, just kind of take a day off and indulge. Now, of course, as I mentioned, it's not to say that there aren't going to be times when we're overwhelmed, where the day just got the best of us, and we want to take a night to de-stress. That happens to all of us, so that's not a terrible thing. But it shouldn't be that we
that is self-care, Abby. That's exactly what that is.
Generally are moving through life expecting to be overwhelmed and then dealing with that kind of feeling of being in a chaotic situation by then taking a night off for self-care and just ignore.
Okay, Abby, I got a question. Abby, have you ever considered maybe, just maybe, that if I were to accept your premise that people need to take this idea of self-care, of preventing these issues, of never getting overwhelmed, then maybe, just possibly, your enemy looks like mine. Because you do realize that unfettered capitalism leads to workers being in the conditions where they are so overwhelmed they have to take a self-care day. When they're having to take care of a family, and take care of bills, and take care of sometimes educating their children, and take care of having a stable relationship with their partner. Do you realize that if you advocated for a society that allowed people ample time off in general, instead of having to work 40 to 80 hours in a week to subsist, barely, maybe, just maybe, we'd live in a society where your argument held a little bit of water. But the reality, Abby, the reality is that that's not the case. When I was working at Walmart, I was not able to keep my mental health in check. When I was working McDonald's and Hardee's together as two jobs, I was barely able to function. What should I have done then, Abby? Cleaned up my plate, cleaned my room, gotten everything perfectly settled for myself. Then I wouldn't have had a breakdown. I wouldn't have had days where I was too exhausted to function. The only option I had was to leave one of those jobs. And of course, then I wasn't making enough money to subsist anyway. So, what is it, Abby? Do you want to actually hold to this prevention is worth an ounce of cure argument, which is generally true, but not actually advocate for the prevention? You throw everything in the arena of the worker, and then they have to handle this on their own? Is that what you're going to do, Abby? Because if that's the case, that is absolutely shitty.
Ignoring any other responsibilities. So in this video, I think I want to delineate the idea of self-care from taking care of yourself. I want to say that taking care of yourself is what we should be aiming for, and self-care
now you're just
is
being
the
pedantic
bad
as
version
shit.
of that, where you're not really dealing with what you need to deal with to be able to take on the world. I am such a huge proponent of really taking care of yourself and taking time for you and being able to handle everything that comes your way by being aware of those things that make life too hard or too difficult.
Yeah, this is just semantics.
Yourself, as opposed to just letting everything come at you all at once and feeling super stressed about it and then just taking the night off to recover. So today I want to share with you 5 tips that I have for real self-care.
Go ahead, lay them on me.
Taking care of yourself. So let's get into it. Number 1 is to make time for yourself each and every day. Now I know.
Wait, Abby. Did you just shit on the idea of making time for yourself? And then gave the advice, make time for yourself? Is that what you just did? Abby! I don't know if this should be used on you or me. But you're not around, so... I realized I was muted during that. I do not know if that hammer should have been used on me or her, but I'm the only one around here, so... I'm the one option. You just shat on people taking time for themselves. By telling people to take time for themselves. Did you learn logic from your brother? Because he does this dumb shit too. You literally just took an idea and said you didn't like the box it was in, and then took it out of the box and then said it's my idea now. I think I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna fucking scream. You're that stupid. Every video I've done covering this person, I've never come to the point where I've had just a break of just, wow, no, this person's that dumb. Let's go ahead and see what your other tips are. Abby?
So many of us are so busy. We've got work, we have kids, we have school. There's a million things that we have to do every single day that it feels crazy to even ask for.
Okay, so...
Without a routine is the first thing that will make you feel...
Hey, look! Actually good advice! Getting into a routine. Would you like to know what my routine was when I had 2 jobs? Sleep when I had the fucking chance. Getting a routine is generally good advice. It's why I'm trying to stream on the channel at the same time every time now. As much as I can, anyway. It is good advice. But holy shit, Abby! It does not negate the thing that happened before. Let us see what your third piece of advice is. Because I don't need all the verbal fluff. So, I'm just going to say that out of context...
work or for childcare or for whatever else it is. Number 3 is to take a bath or a luxurious
take a bath once a week. You know what? Abby, we're screen capping this. We're screen capping this because I want to live in the fictional universe where you basically just told people not to shower. I know that's not the case. I know it's not. Can I just say also I don't have this option because our shower barely works, so I kind of just have to bathe in general, but, you know, whatever. Yeah, she literally mocked people for taking a luxurious bath and having some wine earlier in the video. But then her third bit of advice is to take a bath once a week. Literally, Abby, you are shitting on self-care and then just defining self-care. You fought a straw man and then built what everybody already does. It's because of the wine part. Okay. Sure thing. Let's see. Take a deep breath. Pause and think. That's your fourth one. Abby. Again, it's not that you're wrong. But this is shit people already do. Who engage in the version of self-care you demonized. So let's go ahead and see what your last one is. Well, let's hear your version of this first.
And how you can fix it. Deep breath and figure out what's causing you to spiral out of control and how you can fix it.
Yep, that is, again, generally good advice, if it had not been framed directly after shitting on mental health. Yes, the idea that when you have a problem, you need to sit down and work out a solution, and you need to do so while taking a breath. That's reasonable. But again, not right after literally shitting on people. Oh no. Oh no, we've got the last one.
You're still okay. You're fine. You've dealt with it, and that's a good thing. The fifth and final way to take care of yourself regularly is pray. Praying to God reminds us that we're really not in control of anything. Once you recognize that God is...
I've had better ideas. Abby. You're so dumb I had to shoot myself in the balls. Abby. You are a walking argument against this. All right, Abby. I'll bite. I am an atheist. What God do I pray to? Now, let me go ahead and just point out that's not even the issue. The best way to feel or the best way to compose yourself and get control of your life is to realize you have no control. Wow, the existential dread is right here. Perfect. I get it. Is this loaded? Yes, it is. Awesome. The existentialism is... It's happening right now. I can only shoot the dread away. That's all I can do, Abby. That's the only option I have, because it's the only option you gave me. After shitting on mental health, and then redefining what you think self-care is, and finally landing on just wipe your hands of it. Just hand it to God. God's got it. God's got it. Right! That God I don't believe in. Sure thing, bud. Sure thing. Absolutely. Absolutely, Abby. I'll pray. I'll do it. I'll do it for you. Dear God, I sincerely hope you can give this bitch a brain. That's where we're at, Abby. That is where we're at. The semantics, the pedantry, the absolute dumbfuckery of advocating against people's mental health and then redefining everything so that you can claim it as yourself like a greedy asshole. Okay. Yeah, we're done. We're done, Abby. We're done. If you made it through this and you got to the end of this, go ahead and hit the like button if you want to see more of my suffering. Hit subscribe as well if you haven't already. That's about as much plugging as I'm going to do.